Because what you, the unsung heroes in the wastewater industry, do matters. Join me, Suzan Chin-Taylor, the Doo-Doo Diva, a longtime veteran of the wastewater, trenchless, and civil infrastructure industry each week as I deliver industry know-how from industry pros who know how. Whether you want to learn about the latest trends in technology, training and retaining great talent, sales and marketing, leadership and growth, or simply how to be more efficient, productive, or profitable, this podcast is for you. Let's dive in.
Are you feeling overwhelmed by marketing and not getting the opportunities you desire and deserve? Well, you're not alone. Many businesses in our industry have struggled with this same problem until they learned and implemented what we're going to reveal in Lifting the Veil: Secrets of Top Marketers, Time-Tested Strategies, and AI Innovation. This is a very special interactive bootcamp-style workshop being presented at the upcoming 2025 WWETT in Indianapolis. In this workshop, we're going to lift the veil on proven traditional, digital, and AI strategies that generate sales, recapture lost leads, and set you up to thrive in 2025 and beyond. Don't miss this opportunity to transform your growth and achieve your business goals in 2025 and beyond. Click the link below in the show notes for more information and to reserve your seat at this very special workshop. We look forward to seeing you in Indianapolis, February 18th, 2025. So thank you again for being so generous with your time, TJ. And for those of you who maybe missed the last episode, TJ is a longtime entrepreneur in our industry, a sewer rat just like myself. And he is the inventor of the Vanguard Pathogen Defense System from Hydro Products. And so we were talking earlier in the last episode about the importance of safeguarding our crews and how safety also plays a part in safeguarding a company or contract, really focusing on contractors, a contractor's bottom line and his profitability. Safety is looked at often as, just another added expense. I have to do this training and da. But what I want to speak to is how investing in safety devices, safety protocols, best practices, and training, what impact that really has, unknown, unseen sometimes, on the bottom line. And I think you're very well versed to speak to this because before you got into becoming a product manufacturer and an inventor, you were a contractor.
Right.
You did CCTV inspections. So this is right in your wheelhouse. So tell me what your opinion on this as a contractor, because obviously it led you to wanting to do safety products. What's your take on this in how this can really help contractors and even municipalities? Because let's face it, it's not so much a bottom line, but it's revenue, productivity.
Yeah, it really is. Because if you have, a worker and they get sick, okay, they're going to be out. You're going to probably have to retrain. Well, first of all, you're going to have to find somebody that's willing to work right now and then retrain them and try to get them up to speed best they can, but they'll still never know where those, hidden manholes are and so forth. But, it really made me an eye-opening experience because, the younger you are, the more invincible you believe you are. So it's kind of interesting, as a child, you're, fearful of pretty much everything and you're run to your mom if something happens. Then pretty soon you get into your teenage years and then pretty soon you're invincible for, a couple decades or a decade or so. And then pretty soon you start getting smarter and you say, what, I'm not invincible. I can break my arm on, jumping off on my motorcycle or whatever. But in the wastewater industry, I see this because I'll pick on my friends in Australia because, many years ago, I went out to Australia to help with some equipment out there. And, this was a long time ago. And there was a young guy and, we'll call him Dan. And he was out, jetting, no gloves at all, none. And I said, Dan, what's up? You really, this stuff's not going to bother me. Well, guess what I noticed? I noticed a great big cut on his hand. Okay, so you have raw sewage, you have an open wound, and you have a guy that thinks he's invincible, right? Those three don't really play together. Hopefully he's still alive and still has his hand or the rest of his body, but it's just a direct, a direct conduit directly into your bloodstream when you have an open. And even, for wastewater workers, you have your eyes. It's a nice, wet, warm, moist environment that stuff can get in and reproduce and move right into your brain. It's really close. But also for me, I have found that a lot of the guys in wastewater, including myself, are hands-on people. We like to work on our own cars, our own motorcycles, or build our basement out and so forth. So we are hands-on type people for one thing. And I know that from being in the wastewater business, your hands are constantly wet, then they're dry, then they're wet, then they're dry. And I used to get chafes in between my hands, and they would literally be bloody over a period of time, especially in the winter when it's colder out. Well, that's a perfect place for bacteria and viruses to enter into your body, and people don't even really think about that. So if you're proactive, as they say, the old adage, we've heard it a million times, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and it's so true. And that's kind of the way I was thinking about it as far as the safety and health, because it's extremely expensive to be sick. It really is.
Even if you have good insurance, it's still expensive to be sick.
Sure, absolutely. Because if you're sick and your family is counting on your income and you're out for whatever reason, you're not going to be being paid. And then pretty soon you're going to start saying, wow, the bills are piling up. I'm getting behind. And then they're going to start saying, all right, I need some compensation. I need something to help me. And then they're going to run to the nearest, attorney and say, hey, can you help me? And you don't have to lose a lawsuit for it to be expensive. You just have to be involved in one. So, it's sad. I've been involved in, 1 year ago myself over nothing that I even had to do with, but I was associated with them. And I got pulled in and had to pay several $1,000s just to say, listen, he didn't have anything to do with it. He was only on the same site as, this other company. And it was unfortunate, but, it's just, part of life.
Right, right. So, when we talk about the bottom line and injury, so what are some things that people can do that you see that maybe that you implemented yourself to reduce risk?
Right. Well, I think the number one thing in wastewater when you're jetting is don't stand right over the manhole. Everybody wants to stand right over the manhole and look into it. And, when you're taking off with the jet, you're kicking up quite a bit of mist and so forth. And then once it gets, maybe 10 feet or so into the pipe, it diminishes. But then, they're standing out, looking down as it's coming back, to see when it's getting close. Well, I would put on a longer leader hose. I'd put on a 20-foot leader hose. So you can say, hey, we're within 20 feet and, start maybe paying attention to that and, coming back a little bit slower, perhaps, things like that. Because also, as the jet nozzles can come out of the hole and hit somebody and cause serious injury or even death. That's happened. So that's number one, is don't stand over the manhole. Number two is be cognizant of your surroundings and what you're touching and everything else, because you hear about people all the time, and they've actually done tests where they will put some UV dye on stuff in an office, or actually they did it on little kids like in a kindergarten, and they had a box of crayons. This is great. Little box of crayons. They put some UV dye powder on the box of crayons, didn't tell anybody about it. Well, little Johnny grabs the box of crayons, goes over and sets them down. Somebody else grabs that box of crayons, and Johnny's touching people and touching the door and the drinking fountain and all this. And then at the end of the day, they came back with a black light and lit up the whole thing. And it was like just about all those kids had been exposed to that box of crayons in one way or another, whether it's direct contact or contact with somebody who had contact with it. And that's, part of, sickness. And, they were doing a lot of the contact tracing with, COVID recently of saying, hey, who have you been around? Who's your circle of friends and your influence? They're possibly, sick as well. And I mean, you know how that works. It's
Right.
it just moves around from place to place. And that's the same with germs that you get out of the sewer.
Ugh. I don't like to think about it, getting a little bit of that gag reflex here, but it is true. I mean, just a lot of nasty stuff is coming up, and you touch it and it transfers to someplace else, and it doesn't take much to get you sick. So when we were talking about legal liability mitigation, you were saying don't stand over the manhole and be cognizant. What are some other tips, and how can a company perform a simple safety audit to watch how they're doing things in order to figure out how they could, basically do it better, create their own training manual so that they, I don't know, it's some of these habits of how people have always done it are very, very ingrained, but there has to be a way in order to break that habit.
Well, I think, it's kind of like doing inspections for weapons on another country, for instance. You announce to them and say, yeah, we're going to be over on, April 27th at 2:00 to check out and make sure that you're complying with all the weapons.
Right.
Yeah, right. Like you're going to find a bunch of stuff sitting out and this and that. Well, it's the same way with wastewater workers or anybody. So I wouldn't announce to the team and say, hey, I'm sending out, a safety guy. He's going to come out and watch your procedures on, this day. Well, it's human nature. We're all going to be on our very best behavior, and we're all going to wear our gloves and put on our safety glasses and all this. But I mean, if you really want to know the truth, don't tell them you're going to be there. Don't even show up. Just, park down the street and watch them, because you'll very quickly see what the guys are actually doing versus what they tell you they're doing in a lot of cases. And I'm not going to throw, everybody under the bus. There's a lot of very good people out there that do it. And then there's other guys that, couldn't care less. They touch stuff, they throw rags, they'll throw their, Coke can on the side of the road. And, just odds and ends, so watch and observe without them knowing that you're, watching them. And then you'll find really what's actually happening in that environment.
Do you think a financial incentive to be safer or, less incidents could work in a situation like this to get people to comply or to be more aware?
It's possible, but, there's been study after study done, and people are more likely to avoid pain than, be incentivized by that extra. So if you say, listen, George, if I catch you one more time not using your gloves, you're going to be looking for another job versus, hey, George, listen, if you wear your gloves every time I come out and see it, I'm going to give you $10 extra. Well, they're going to be a lot more incentivized to keep their employment. Exactly. But it certainly wouldn't help. I would try it and say, hey, you know what, we're going to have people running around checking. And if you're complying and, wearing your safety, gear like you're supposed to, then we're going to give you an added addition to your paycheck or something like that. So that maybe they're a little cognizant about, being proactive about their own health and safety. But honestly, you got to care about yourself. And, you can tell somebody all day long, listen, I'm not going to pick on the smokers out there, but you can tell somebody who's a smoker, hey, don't you know that's bad for you? Well, you might get punched, but you're probably not going to change their mind because, it's printed on every single pack of cigarettes purchased, but until they say, hey, you know what, I want to be healthier for myself, for my family, I want to see my grandkids grow up. Well, they're probably more likely to make that, change and, for their own health and safety than threat of, a fine or what have you.
Right, right. So, just in wrapping up, one thing, you were focusing an awful lot on safety as it relates to jetting, but in your
Mm,
experience with, just talking a little bit about that Vanguard system, you had mentioned that it could be utilized on, jetting trucks, combination trucks, but I recall you saying that it could also have applications for CCTV
right.
robotic cameras because they're going to be exposed, those cables coming back
Sure.
are going to be bringing up, and on the wheels and the
Oh, yeah.
tractors
Oh,
treads,
yeah.
they're going to be bringing up the same gunk that a
Yeah.
CCTV operator. So how can, I know it's a shift, but I just wanted to touch on that because I think that's just as important too. um, how can we help the CCTV folks
Yeah.
with
Yeah. We have,
safety?
systems for CCTV vehicles as well. We have three different battles that we have with CCTV vehicles versus jet trucks. Number one, they can travel very, very long distances with a camera. Number two, they travel very, very slowly. And number three, you have a pretty limited water supply on that. So unlike a jet truck that has 1,000, 1,200 gallons of water and fills up all the time, CCTV trucks, unless you're in a real like a dead end manhole, you'll be pulling back and driving through stuff with the crawler or the wheels. And once you pull it up and you set it on the side, some guys are filling up their water tanks with pine sol or simple green and so forth, and then spraying that stuff down. Well, we have a similar type of thing, except our system doesn't integrate any antibacterial into it until you need it. So if you needed to wash out your eyes or something with the water that's in the sink, because some of these CCTV trucks have sinks in them,
Right.
or you want to, wash your hands or whatever, then you still have your, potable water on board, and it's not full of pine sol or anything else. So it's activated by just turning it on, and then when you're wanting to wash down the treads, and most of the guys are not spraying down the entire cable as it's coming back. You're just going to fill up a little bit more often. Our systems are pulling off about a half a gallon a minute on the water tank on the CCTV. So 20 gallons, 40 minutes of spray time. It's pretty easy. But if you do run out of water, then you could certainly fill back up. But one of the things is we have higher pressure water. So when they have that crawler come up and set on the side of the manhole, they can blast off pretty quickly, then wash that mess down into the manhole and be on their way. And a lot of the guys are just spraying over the top of that cable with the system and knocking down, because really stink is nothing more than the off-gassing of bacteria. And that's really what's causing that. So you're stuck in that same compartment with that. So we've had so many great testimonies from our customers who have Vanguard systems on CCTV trucks that they're not having to breathe all that all the time, and and be sitting in there with it and on a hot summer day.
So you mean it doesn't smell like money to them?
No, it doesn't smell as much as it might to us.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Well, TJ, thank you so much for sharing all this information and extending the talk so that we could continue talking about this very, very important subject to our industry. And
Sure.
I look forward to seeing you at an upcoming trade show. And again, thank you for joining me. And for those of you in the audience, thank you for tuning in again. We'll see you next time on the next episode of the Do Divas Smells Like Money podcast. And until then, keep it flowing. Are you feeling overwhelmed by marketing and not getting the opportunities you desire and deserve? Well, you're not alone. Many businesses in our industry have struggled with this same problem until they learned and implemented what we're going to reveal in Lifting the Veil: Secrets of Top Marketers, Time-Tested Strategies, and AI Innovation. This is a very special interactive bootcamp style workshop being presented at the upcoming 2025 WWETT in Indianapolis. In this workshop, we're going to lift the veil on proven traditional, digital, and AI strategies that generate sales, recapture lost leads, and set you up to thrive in 2025 and beyond. Don't miss this opportunity to transform your growth and achieve your business goals in 2025 and beyond. Click the link below in the show notes for more information and to reserve your seat at this very special workshop. We look forward to seeing you in Indianapolis, February 18th, 2025.
Be sure to subscribe to the show so you'll never miss an episode. If you're an industry expert and would like to be considered as a guest on the show, click the Be a Podcast Guest link below in the show notes for more information. Thanks again for joining me, the Doo Doo Diva, on this week's episode of the Smells Like Money podcast.